Sorry, guys, I just cut you off right there. You know, the problem with all these on the spots, as you probably have seen in the past, is that Spot rambles on inconsistently, and sometimes I talk a lot, sometimes I don't talk very much, but I always seem to eat up a lot of time. So, resuming where we left off in the review revolution, or as I like to call him, RR. He doesn't really like that. We really haven't had any banter back and forth over the whole naming of individuals. He calls me Spot. I say usually a jerk. We don't really have that conversation, but Spot's just creating imaginary conversations in his head. Resuming to where we had left off in part 1, however, Review Revolution RR had asked me what I see as the current era of horror movies. And I guess I really did wrap it up in the last video, but I just want to quickly say that I think as we, and I point at myself because I am of older age, but I think I see while horror movies are one direction, I really see, and I'm probably going to be completely wrong, I really see a resurgence in slasher movies. It may not happen right away, but I think something will come along and reset that benchmark, will re-push a new era. Whether it be maybe a new Nightmare on Elm Street, which I'm hoping Jackie Earle Haley comes back, and I'm really hoping everybody doesn't say, "Oh God, no, he's not Robert Englund." I honestly think Jackie Earle Haley deserves at least another 2 movies. After all, we did get one Nightmare on Elm Street with Rob, as his close friends call him, and he was very serious in the first movie. He got zanier, and it got a little more fantastical as the sequels progressed. I think Jackie Earle Haley deserves at least 2 more sequels. So I'm hoping a Nightmare on Elm Street's going to come, or I'm thinking something along the lines of something like that is going to come along, and people are all of a sudden going to be jumping back onto the slasher movies. And maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll get a couple of more Friday the 13th. I think that what really sets the mark for the original slasher movies and why they have held up so much is because they are so considerably dated. I think that is the fun in watching these original movies. And I think maybe that's why Nightmare on Elm Street, maybe Friday the 13th, didn't do so well. It wasn't so much the killers, wasn't so much the deaths, but it was the fact that it incorporated the me generation. The me. I've got this. I've got a cell phone. I've got a BlackBerry. I've got a Porsche. My dad has this. I have this. I am a douchebag. All this stuff. I think that's why a lot of people didn't really necessarily like the Friday the 13th movie remake. Maybe why some people didn't like the Nightmare on Elm Street, because all the Nightmare on Elm Street were just all like, pardon Spot for explaining this, all the emos and, all that kind of stuff. I don't know what's going on. It's probably just the guava. But I could see, I know Texas Chainsaw or Chainsaw Massacre 3D has done well compared to its budget. Probably has now dropped off the map. People have forgotten all about it. And I don't understand how it could be a direct sequel to the first one from 1974, and yet the girl is in her 20s, and it's supposed to be like in the present time. I don't know how that works, but again, needless to say, I see slasher movies coming back. Something is going to set the mark again, and I think people are going to have fun going again to see horror movies where it's not going to be so scary, and it's not going to be, let's just torture somebody. I think we're just going to get back into the real fun horror movies of yesteryear. And I'm pointing this way, but you know what I'm talking about. Resuming with his part 2 question.
Is there still room for a franchise character? A slasher franchise like Jason or Freddy?
Almost seems like Spot was already talking about this.
What is it? Those
I know exactly what you're talking about, RR.
Films,
I know what you're talking about.
Today for that. So 2 parts. First, what is the direction of horror movies today versus, say, 20 years ago?
Oh, I just flipped out of my screen. I don't know what I was doing there.
Still an audience for a franchise character like Jason or Freddy or someone like that to come around. So, on the spot, that's my question for you. I'm not gonna make you go. I'm not gonna make you go hunting for this.
I really appreciate
We're
it.
gonna restart this.
Thank you.
Get back to a look at Aquaman, guys.
All right, so that was Review Revolution's question. Again, kind of really touching on everything that I was already rambling on about. As it stands right now, I do definitely see the horror movies being more supernatural, haunted, you know, But I do definitely see a resurgence. I see a resurgence of the classic 80s style. Because, you know, I always feel like that stuff can come around again. You know how records before outdated, now people are buying records again, and you see like records at music stores, and it's like, what? You know, all that stuff comes back. And I think that's really where they missed the mark with the remakes, is that they made the remakes as a love letter to the original fans, but then they wrote and cast those movies to accommodate the new generation. And I think a lot of younger viewers, and if you are a younger viewer to horror movies, you can let me know down below, but I think a younger viewer loves watching Nightmare on Elm Street's, Friday the 13th, and stuff like that, and they're not necessarily nitpicking the fact that it doesn't properly reflect their current generation. And I think that's where the big problem happened with the remakes, was the fact that it was geared towards the way that the generation is now today, and all the generation of my generation, talking about my I think my generation, our generation, the 30-somethings, I think we really just didn't get into those remakes because it was so heavily influenced by today's lingo, texting, you know, LOL, you know, rolling on the floor, all the other stuff that kids love today. So I think if they can just do a proper love letter to the fans and bring back, there's going to be, I don't know, I'm probably going to be completely wrong, but I really see that there's going to be one slasher movie that's going to be made that is really going to resurge all of that. And then you're going to see maybe you're going to see a lot of the older movies going back to the theaters for replays. That would be so awesome. An original Friday 13th, let's say Friday 13th Part 4 on the big screen. Totally going to go retro. I think we're kind of going to go down the road of a retro at some point. I think there is room, but I think there's definitely something that's going to need to ignite that to get that going again. So thank you to the Review Revolution for your question. Let's go back to where we were. Let's click on MGen Reviews. And apparently my monitor's auto-adjusting.
Hello, Review Spot.
Hello.
MGen Reviews. This is On the Spot. Can I click short? On the Spot, Review Spot. How are you? And what are some of your favorite Batman villains? Do you, at least, what are some of your favorite Batman villains? Like, do I guess top 5 or something? If you're curious to know, just in case, some of my favorite Batman villains, I guess number 6 being the Riddler. I don't really have a favorite, but the Riddler is one of them. And number 5 would be Ra's al Ghul. And number 4 would be Mr. Freeze. Number 3 would be Bane. Number 2, I don't have a Bane figure with me right now. I have yet to get one. And number 2 would be Hush, reason because of Heart of Hush. And number 1 would be the Joker. Yeah. Those are some of my favorite villains. Some of my favorite villains Spot. Let me know some of your favorite villains. Your favorite Batman rogues. You know, go on to I guess make a list or something. I don't know. Let me know some of your favorite Batman villains. This is MGen Reviews. Thank you for making this question segment, Spot. And
thank you for sending your question.
I'm looking forward to more of your videos, Spot. See you later.
All right, so MGen Reviews asked me, what are my favorite Batman villains? And actually, that's easy because Batman has always been my favorite superhero. I shouldn't say that. Superman's always been my favorite superhero. Batman's always been a close second. Spider-Man's a third for me. But talking about Batman, I think definitely by far Batman has the best rogues gallery of all superheroes out there. Spider-Man is definitely a close second, but I think Batman by far has the best rogues ever. Ever! If you were to ask me what my favorite Batman villains are, I think if I could put them in an order, I think if I could put them in, I probably could do this. I think if I could put them in an order, I think I would go Bane, classic luchador style wearing mask Bane. I would go Two-Face. I love Two-Face. Two-Face is just awesome. The very notion of having a character who's split personality and literally personifies it in the way he dresses and the way he looks. I love that. Plus I'm a Gemini, so that's a no-brainer. Second, for me, Clayface. I just love Clayface. Ever since the Batman animated series, I've always loved Clayface. Clayface is just awesome. DC Superheroes Clayface is still by far my favorite action figure, or one of my favorite action figures I own. I love that figure. And Clayface is definitely number 2. But, you know, number 1 for me definitely has to be Joker. By far. Joker is awesome. Joker, really, to take somebody who is the complete opposite to what your hero is and what your hero represents and what your hero is trying to do, to take a character who is the complete flip end of that and basically who has, you know, very little remorse and basically thinks completely out of the box and pushes your hero to the very limit. I think that makes for a fantastic superhero or supervillain. So I would say Joker definitely is my number 1 Batman villain. Mr. Freeze, I would probably say is maybe 5. Riddler I've liked, but not really enough that I'm wowed by Riddler. But I would definitely say, okay, Mr. Freeze, Bane, Two-Face, Clayface, Joker. That would be my order. I think Scarecrow probably would be maybe after Mr. Freeze, or maybe even before Mr. Freeze, but those are my top 4 at least. So thank you to MGen Reviews for sending me your video question. This also finishes up part 2. I know, we're only done 2 questions, and Spot's now rambled on for 2 videos worth, but this is now part 2 of On the Spot. So I'm going to wrap this up here. I'm going to upload this video that you see right here. And when we come back for part 3, I'm going to keep going through the questions that you guys have sent me. So stay tuned for that, guys. More is definitely on the way.